All right, nobody's watching this, dude. I figured it out. I figured out what I'm trying. There's something compelling me to say this shit, and I listened to myself and I realized like what the answer is. It's just Jordan Peterson. He's right. Like my conscience is bothering me because for a year and a half, I've been reading this spiel, and I've been saying this shit where like I said that like, you know, a lot of people just have kids and they have a house and family and career because like that's what everybody else does. But like it's kind of awful, and you should just be free, and you should just be able to just think like, what do I want to do, and then just be able to do what you want with your own with the only time of your life. And I have been to some degree corrupting. I potentially I will say this like nobody watches my thing, but like I don't want like I have been sort of somewhat potentially poisoning young people and glorifying myself at the expense of their ability to have jobs and have kids, and I don't want to fucking do that. So basically like that's kind of what I'm saying is like Jordan Peterson says if you're doing that, you're like a bad person. And so I just want to say that like dude, you shouldn't just I always had this, you shouldn't just goof off, and you shouldn't just play games, you shouldn't just stay at your parents' house, you should get a job, you should have like kids and shit. And I don't want to say that like it's, you know, I said this thing where it's like this is, you know, you're free to do whatever you want with your time of your life. And a lot of times people just have kids and they have a house because like that's what everybody else does, but like it's miserable, and like you should just be able to have fun. That's kind of jackass like irresponsible shit. You should fucking have kids, you should have a job. And it's because like life is a chain, and you have this later half of your life when it shouldn't be about you, you know. It should be about like when you're kind of fading away, you should prioritize. The young people really are like more important than like the old people. It's just kind of how it is, like women and children first. And so what's your point? I just think like there's a lot of different forms of that. There's a lot of different forms of older people basically like glorifying themselves or prioritizing themselves at the sometimes at the expense of like young people's ability to have kids and a job. And I never want to fucking do that. And I think I could have possibly like this thing that I was reading, the spiel thing, could possibly have been doing that. I could have basically been saying like work is for suckers, and like there's young people who are in their 20s who are like, yeah, I want to hear like an older person say like work is for suckers, like you can just have fun all day. And that's kind of bad because it's not cool. Like you don't want to be lonely, you don't want to be homeless, and also it's just people have to have babies. And just I'm telling you, just this period of life from 40 onward, it can get really awful. It just seems like I didn't do it, but it seems like the natural way to be is when you're falling apart to like invest in your kid. And so I'm just going ahead and saying that like just I'm that's kind of what I keep trying to say with these videos. It's just like Jordan Peterson is persecuting me, and I'm saying like fuck, like I don't want to like glorify myself and like mess up some young person's ability to like get a job by saying like, oh yeah, like work is for suckers, like you can just have fun, you can just do art projects and just like I'm so cool and just listen to me. And then some young people might say, yeah, tell me about how like I don't have to get a job, and tell me about how I can just do art projects, and tell me about how like artificial intelligence is just going to make it so we have like universal basic income and we can just be irresponsible all day. No, like that's not the fucking way. Jordan Peterson's right. You should get a fucking job. I'm not trying to just. I should get a fucking job. Everybody should get a job when they're young enough to breed, and then they should prepare. You're gonna eventually get old and die, and so when you're 40, headed towards death, you should be raising a kid if you can, or at least prioritizing other people if you can. And otherwise, also just for your own sake, if you prioritize yourself and if you just invest in yourself your whole fucking life, and if it's all about you, well then like your own death seems like the end of the world. And it's not the end of the world. There's lots of other people born, and it's just, I think for all aspects of a healthy life, it's better to like prioritize. As you get older, it's better to prioritize some like external other people, and having kids is like the best way of doing that. You don't even have to take my word for it. You can just say it. Nobody's listening, right? But wouldn't psychologists kind of say that like from life from 40 until death, psychologically it's healthier and just usually a recipe for a happy life to prioritize some stuff outside of you that's going to outlast you, like children, or like maybe your career, or some skill set that you're contributing to, like your work or something like that. But if you're just continually investing in yourself and trying to be like a star or something like that, and just living completely selfishly, it's psychologically kind of bad to live in that kind of selfish way, particularly as you get older, versus like prioritizing your kid or your work or some kind of ongoing stuff, right? Isn't that backed by data? So, in essence, psychologists would strongly agree with your statement. The shift from primary focus on individual achievement and identity to a broader concern for the welfare of others and the future generations is considered a hallmark of healthy adult development and a key ingredient for a happy and fulfilling life in later decades. So, that's kind of what I'm trying to do right now. It's like, I guess I have this guilty thing where it's like, I was kind of wrong, and just a lot of the spiel that I was reading. Like, one thing I was wondering is like, why read it publicly? Like, why am I doing this publicly if I'm so happy just living irresponsibly and just doing art all day? Why read this thing out loud? Why not just read it alone in my fucking room? Well, because I can't stand the fucking loneliness, and so I kind of want. There's probably some psychological thing subconsciously where I'm like, oh, like there's probably some like young people who are like, oh, like, my parents and people who care about me, they're telling me I got to get a job and do all this humdrum boring shit. But this guy, he's saying like, no, like you can just kind of have fun. You can just do art projects. It's your life. You should be able to choose what you want to do with your time. Just I can say the data says it's definitely better to have kids and just have family, but especially when you're older, and prioritize some ongoing thing like your children or just your work or something. And just, it's just really clear to me now that like it gets really grim. It can get really grim if you're just isolated and you don't have kids and you're just a dog guy or like a cat lady after 45, and just you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. I shouldn't have done it. It's just, I wish that I had kids, and I wish I had a career when I was young, and I wish that kind of forced me to integrate into society and be respectable and upstanding. And I think it's too late for me now, but I don't want to like pollute you. If you're watching this, I don't want to pollute some young person. Jordan Peterson, he's saying like people do that. People, they pollute the young people by saying like, oh, you should be like me or something. You should. That's a thing. And basically, I never want to fucking do that. I just want to say like, um, I don't want to fucking damage some other young person's life. So basically, long story short, if you, or if no one's watching this, it doesn't matter what I say. But if you're watching this and having watched my thing, you have started to just take up like art projects and think like, oh, I just want to do like, forget getting a job, forget if you're spending a ton of time on just like art projects to the detriment of like something that could be a viable career or dating, not good. As somebody who's done that their whole life, I wish I just had a job, and I wish I just had a wife and kids, and I would trade it. I would trade like just, I wish I just, the last like 10 years I just made a bunch of art that nobody fucking watches. A kid should be more important than that. And so I kind of fucked up my life. And so I don't want to fuck up some other person's life. I don't want you, if somebody's watching this, I don't want some young person to be like, hey, like, Sean, you kind of inspired me to just do creative pursuits and hobbies and ignore getting a job and ignore getting a girlfriend. Not good, not good. Don't do it. Especially if you're young. If I was young, I would do nothing but try to get laid and try to get a stable job. Cause like, that's kind of like, it's just it's a better recipe for a life. And you really are kind of like a part of a chain. And again, just that you can check on ChatGPT. The data says, particularly for this older people, for people like 40 onward, it's just psychologically better and just better for the world to like prioritize the up and coming. I heard this guy on a podcast say that the sun also rises, like this period from like 40 to death. It's kind of like the sun is setting. But for a lot of people, it's like the sun is also rising. Like there's new people being born. It was like, and you want to like, it's clear that you want to like prioritize the rising suns, particularly ones that you are potentially related to, that you have as kids, or just some like your work or something like that, and be like, it's like, as long as that ongoing stuff is going to be okay, that's my main concern. It seems like that's what the data says. It's just like, as a mature adult, you want to like, it's like women and children first. You want to like prioritize like the ongoing shit, and you don't want to like be clinging to the youth and be like, no, it's me, and I'm gonna. You don't want to drag down a bunch of fucking like women and children, and so which one? Just I don't want to fucking do that. And so I'm just saying like, I kind of have been doing that a little bit. I mean, I'm basically like crying into the void, and that's fine. I can cry into the void and be pathetic and serve as like a reminder of like why you should get a job and have a kid before you're 40. But I don't want to ever like make it sound like, oh, like work is for suckers. Like this is your life. There's a lot of traditions like marriage and kids that are just unexamined, and like everybody's kind of miserable. No, like it's good to like do the shit that like keeps a job. It's good to like mesh with people. It's good because like nobody's listening, right? But I just want to say this over and over. This is just, I always look at this thing and I always say, this is a beach in 1910. All these people were doing all these customs of like fitting in, and they seem really uncomfortable. And I always say, well, now they're all dead. Like they could have just done anything. Why didn't they just have fun? Yeah, they're all dead, but their kids are alive. Their kids and grandkids are alive today. And so that's the thing, is like, it's like that thing in Star Wars where it's like, you fool, only at the end do you see how it goes. That's kind of how I feel now. It's like, just, dude, you're supposed to have kids. Life is a chain, and there's work and there's ongoing human shit, and people should like prioritize that. So that's what I'm fucking doing. And when I'm making this video, I'm trying to prioritize young people, and I'm just saying like, dude, you don't want to fucking do this. You don't want to fucking just be like jobless and friendless and childless, jobless and spouseless at 45, because it's kind of crazy making, and it can get really sad in all sorts of ways. And it's just the data says it's psychologically better to prioritize something that's going to outlast you. And so I kind of fucked that up, but you can fucking do it. But you can't fucking make that happen forever. It's kind of like the window of time to lay the groundwork for that. It's 18 to 35, and so just don't worry. There'll be plenty of screen time later on, but this is the time like to like get a good spouse, get a good career, and lay the groundwork for that. And just, it's the better way to go, I think. Yeah, which point? That's what my conscience is telling me to fucking say. And so probably not. No, probably nobody's watching this, but just I just had to fucking say that. Also, I'm just lonely and freaking out.